For the longest time, I wanted to be the next Joss Whedon. He was one of my biggest idols and inspirations because of the impact that he had on popular culture. He created these amazing characters and these vast worlds that you could just lose yourself in. And I wanted to do that. I still want to do that. But I don't want to be anything like Joss Whedon. It's astounding how many of our childhood and favorite fandoms have been soiled by people that we once looked up to. Some of these people have ruined lives. The thing is, that piece of work, it still exists. And for many of us, we don't know how to feel about our favorite movie or TV show or book. Because that work of creativity, that story, that piece of art, at one time or another, it helped define us. It makes you question yourself as a human being. It makes you reevaluate your morals. That's how I feel about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or Angel, or Firefly, or Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, even The Avengers. I've already talked extensively about how Buffy the Vampire Slayer saved my life, and I'll link that in the description below. But when the truth about Joss Whedon came out, it was a bitter pill to swallow. Joss is a performative feminist. He walks the walk and he talks the talk, but he's anything but feminist. And yet you still find it hard to believe because of the amazing female characters that he's created, like Buffy Summers or River Tam, and even Willow Rosenberg. But creating amazing female characters that women around the world both look up to and idolize doesn't make you a feminist. It makes you a good writer. Feminism isn't a brand. You can't shout one thing and then act in a completely different manner, especially one that negates everything you've ever said. That just makes you an asshole. Here's the thing. Men, they expect to be trusted. Like, it's their inherent right. And women, well, women are taught to prioritize men from childhood. It's like that one infamous Tumblr post about the woman who stopped moving out of the way of men who were walking straight towards her. The vast majority of men either ran into her or stopped abruptly in front of her, shocked that she didn't move. It's the same for when a woman speaks out about a man. The response is always the same. The audacity that a woman would dare say something so slanderous about a man. How could you ruin his life? You're just misunderstanding what he's saying. He would never do that. You just want attention. We need to start listening to women when they speak out. If they say someone is not who they seem to be, we should take note. Joss Whedon turned out to be one of those men. He lived two lives. The public persona as the champion for women. The righteous married man who was raised to be a feminist. And then the conqueror who chased and used women, and in no way practiced what he preached. He was married for 16 years, and for over a decade, he cheated on his wife by using his position as a powerful producer in Hollywood. He knew full well what he was doing was wrong, and yet he still went around touting all his feminist ideals and accepting the accolades and awards from his peers. Worse, he took the choice away from his wife and used her as a shield against criticism and scrutiny. His ex-wife recently broke her silence and spoke out. She told her story because she wanted people to understand who he was and to think twice about honoring him. Because people still worship him. We see him as this king of geek. And I applaud her for her bravery in coming forward. It's a story that we all needed to hear. But knowing what we know now about him, it makes us look back on his work with a little more of a critical eye. Is everything really as it seems? We already know that The Avengers is a testosterone-laden boys' club. It always has been. They've always struggled with incorporating women into the narratives outside of the girlfriend character or that one token female hero. In the Avengers movie, Black Widow is that one token female character, and she's completely underutilized. She's more of a supporting character to help boost the male heroes. But in Age of Ultron, Joss makes it so much worse. It's not likely intentional. In fact, it's probably a line that should have been edited but never actually was. But the implications behind it are absolutely horrifying.
You still think you're the only monster on the team?
This one single line reduces her entire worth down to her reproductive capabilities. That somehow, this makes her a monster. This is how women are viewed. We afford more rights to a clump of cells rather than a living, breathing human woman. God forbid we should ever want to have our tubes tied, because what if one day we want to have kids? What if we change our mind? There are women who are living with chronic illness and chronic pain that could be remedied if they would just allow this operation. But no, because then she wouldn't be able to have children. When a man and a woman are rushed to the ER, the man is treated right away. But the woman is left to wait because they need to run the pregnancy test first. They need to make sure she's not pregnant before they start treatment. So he's treated and she's left dying on a gurney. Ultimately, what it comes down to in this scene with Nat is her lack of choice as a woman. She is an object and a tool, intentional or not. The implications are devastating. But Joss also dipped his hand into the DC pool with the Justice League. An all-around failure, and I really should rant about that at some point. But did you know he also wrote a script for the Wonder Woman movie? And oh my god, thank God that did not happen. Because it was filled with the male character speaking down to Diana and the Amazons. But let's also not forget about the toxic and hostile work environment he created on set. For not only the only female actress, but also the only black actor. But what about his other successes, his bigger successes? The ones that have created entire cults? Let's start with Firefly. Still to this day, one of my favorite television shows ever. But one of the weirdest things about this show for me is it includes the Anglo-Sino Alliance. The show uses swaths of Chinese culture and art and language, and yet there's a very serious lack of any Chinese characters whatsoever, with the occasional inclusion of a token minority, namely the kick-ass Zoe. The bigger issue is probably how the character of Inara is utilized in the show. Early on, it's established that a companion's work is one of a spiritual and artistic nature. These are women of intelligence and education who are exercising their sexual agency. But time and time again, Mal reduces it down to sex and money, often calling her a whore or violating her space continually. And yet he still acts like a champion for her, interfering when she doesn't ask him, and expects to be praised for this. But at the same time, turns around and still disrespects her. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Buffy. Because Buffy was a part of so many of our own self-discovery. We have a strong young woman who literally rails against the patriarchy. The Watchers Council is a male institution that is meant to control. They literally took a young woman, forced power on her, and then made her fight for them. Buffy overthrows the council, and then she takes control of her own power, but chooses to distribute it. The patriarchal sexism is destroyed, and women triumph. It's powerful, it's important. But at the same time, power over women is a trigger for redemption or even acts of evil. Like Spike. he attempts to rape Buffy, and because of that act, he suddenly decides that he needs to be more human. That if he suddenly has a soul, then he can be with Buffy or Riley. He feels powerful because he has control over the female vampire that feeds off him. Because Buffy is strong and independent, she doesn't need him. So he needs to go out and find somebody that depends on him. And then Angel's one true moment of happiness is boning the girl that he loves. Like, really? That never sat well with me, even back when that first came out. But then let's not forget that Anya was killed in the end to save a flawed male character. One that we didn't particularly care about. And then Miss Calendar, she was murdered just to further Giles's plotline. Feminism isn't a badge of honor. It isn't insulation against accusations and misogyny and scrutinization. It's so much more than giving women traditionally male roles. It's about giving women the equal opportunities. And it's about acting in a manner that doesn't completely contradict everything you supposedly preach. So no, I don't want to be the next Joss Whedon. I'm gonna be me.